Welcome to Fidelity SME Forum.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Fidelity SME Forum, the program by Fidelity Bank PLC to build and promote Nigerian entrepreneurs with knowledge, expertise, and know-how. In the next couple of episodes, we'll be focusing on branding. The SME Forum, we have some brand focus series. So we are starting with our first guest today, who will be discussing personal branding, specifically how to build and leverage personal branding to promote the enterprise. And so we have as guest somebody who's an expert in this area and has a business along this line. I'm Martin Udogie, and so it's my pleasure to welcome our guest today, Mrs. Ngozi Princewill Utchay. She's the CEO of Artelier Lifestyle Consultants, and she'll be discussing the topic building and leveraging personal branding to promote the enterprise.
Good morning.
You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay.
You're listening to Fidelity SME Forum. We will be right back.
Any advice for other entrepreneurs who'd like to be as successful as you?
Well, make sure you have smart people around you, but be mindful of who you go to for advice.
And by advice, you mean?
I mean business management wisdom, like the kind you get from Fidelity Managed SMEs. You see, their shared service solutions helped me set up a website and gave me access to unique technology solutions. Also, they helped me outsource my accounting and HR operations. Now, I have more time for my business.
The Fidelity Managed SMEs offering is a tailored advisory service to aspiring entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises by our team of highly qualified business advisors. Set up an appointment today and watch our tested team improve your business. Visit fidelitybankplc.com for more information.
Fidelity Bank PLC. We're Fidelity. We keep our word.
Thank you for joining us. This is Fidelity SME Forum. I am Martin Udogie, and we have as our guest today, Mrs. Ngozi Princewill Utchay. She's going to be kicking off our series, a brand focus series, and we're starting with personal branding. Ngozi, you know, there was a guest we had our very last guest, Bruno's Place.
Okay, yes,
Bruno,
I listened to that show.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so he specifically mentioned personal branding as one of the key success factors, you know, for the success of his business, and so we're very proactive to say, okay, let's start this our series, you know, by having an expert, you know, who to come and talk about personal branding. Now people know about corporate branding. Okay, and now there's this personal branding. Are they the same thing? Are they, you know, help us compare and contrast them?
Okay, well, fundamentally, it's the same principles. You know, branding is all about differentiation, you know, distinguishing your product, your service from another, basically to have stronger product name or service recognition in the mind of your clients. You know, so it's fundamentally the same principles. You know, but of course, corporate branding has to do with the organization as a whole, whereas personal branding has to do with the individual. You know, so that's where they differ.
Okay.
But essentially, it's the same principles.
Okay, so the underlying principle is differentiation, like you said, you know, being different from the other,
absolutely,
from the other
standing out from the crowd,
standing out, exactly,
identifying what is unique, what is different about your product. You know, highlighting it. You know, and it just makes your product stand out. It makes people select you, or your product comes to mind. You know, before others, for example. You know, they identify with certain qualities that when they're thinking of, you know, what they want along those lines, you come to mind.
Great. All right. So now our focus is going to be personal branding. How how can an entrepreneur, okay, leverage, what's personal branding? How can an entrepreneur leverage personal branding to advance or promote his or her business?
Okay. Well, because of competitiveness, it's important that whatever you do, it's like they say, carve out your niche. You have to be able to let people know why they should go for your product or for your service as opposed to another person's. So what is it about you? What is it about what you do that should make them, go for your service or your product as opposed to the other person's? So you, like I said earlier, your unique selling proposition, that which makes you different, that which makes you unique, maybe in the way that you deliver, or in the intrinsic quality of what it is that you do. You've got to identify it, and then you've got to market that, as your brand. And basically, that's what sets you apart.
Okay, so that's the individual, like the founder of the business has to also reflect has to also have things about him or her that makes that individual different from the next regular bloke on the street, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so what are some of these things?
Well, I'll give you an example. Let me use, for example, Chicken Republic, KFC, even though, let's say that's corporate branding, KFC, TFC, Chicken Republic. You can have 3 of them side by side on the same street. Now, I tell you that if 10 people come looking for chicken, each one of them is going to have their preference, based on what each of those organizations offer. But they must have been able to identify and communicate what is different, between KFC, TFC, and Chicken Republic, and then you buy into that which appeals most to you. But they've got to, if they're all the same, then it doesn't matter. But you will hear people say, I like this about Chicken Republic, or I prefer this about TFC or KFC, and so on and so forth. So it's the same thing with personal branding.
I was going to say that, but what you're saying now really is the corporate branding. So same thing with personal brand. So as a personal brand, what are some of those things that people, look out for?
Okay, so take for example, you have 3 comedians. One tends to tell jokes that are more sort of mass market, maybe in his approach, even in his dressing, in his communication. And you find out that he attracts a particular audience to himself. Maybe another one is a little more corporate in the way that he projects himself. All his communications, even in the way he chooses to advertise his service. And so he appeals.
And his dressing.
His language. And so he appeals, again, to a different target audience. So when you're comparing them, for example, you're going to say this and this is what I like about this person, or this is what makes this particular comedian different from the other. But the important thing is that each of them has been able to communicate what they're about, has been able to communicate their brand to their audience, and then it becomes more easily recognizable.
Okay, our guest is Mrs. Ngozi Princewill Utchay. She's the CEO of Artelier Lifestyle Consultants, and she's discussing the topic building and leveraging personal brand to promote the enterprise. Okay, so what I hear you say is the personal brand has to reflect the target markets that you are focusing on. Is that a good way to summarize it, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. I would say the personal brand is more about you, the person. Okay, so which is why self-audit is a very fundamental part of discovering, defining your personal brand. So it's more about you. You identify what's unique about you. It has to be authentic. You don't just wake up and say, I'm going to market myself that way. You identify, what is it about me? What are my differentiators? What is it that I do? You look at your competition. They do ta. Now, what is it that I do? Or what is it about me that's different from the way they're doing this? You audit yourself. You understand your product. You understand your service, and then that's what you leverage on in now marketing your service. You say to them, this is how I do what I do. For example, I'm not the only consultant, advisor who does etiquette. But if I'm going to talk to you, I'm probably going to also mention the fact that straight out of, university, one of my very earliest jobs was as a personal assistant to a high commissioner. Okay, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And not long after that, I also worked with the Embassy of France. So I was introduced at that early stage into the world of diplomatic protocol and etiquette. Now, if there are 3 or 5 etiquette consultants, I may be the only one with that background.
Okay.
And that's an added advantage.
That's your brand.
I mean, it's part of my brand.
It's part of your brand. Okay.
It's part of my brand.
Okay, that's why it's important to always identify what makes you unique, what makes you different.
That's where it
starts.
Okay. If you have not identified that, then you haven't even started building your brand.
Okay.
It starts from you understanding, what is it about me? What do I have to offer that's unique to me? Either in the way that I offer it, or even just something that I possess, as an added advantage to what I do, that sets me apart
from the crowd,
from the rest.
Okay, you mentioned something. You said something about self-audit. Okay, I'd like you to throw more light on that so that people understand how to apply it to themselves. When you say self-audit yourself, what should they be looking out for?
Okay, well, that's a process.
Okay, yes. Okay.
It is a process, and it's part of what we do when we're doing personal brand management and all of that. But you've got to identify your values, you've got to identify your vision, your mission, you've got to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, you've got to identify your differentiators, and so many more. And after that, you put together your brand profile, okay? You have a statement.
I'm talking about personal brand now,
absolutely.
Not corporate brand.
Oh no, personal branding.
So the individual should have a statement,
yes,
of his own mission or whatever. Okay.
Of course, because for a brand to be strong, it has to be clear. It has to be clear. People should understand the message you're communicating. It should be a straightforward, specific message. And if you don't understand what you want to communicate, then it's going to be distorted at some point.
Okay.
You've got to be very clear, which is why the self-audit is very important. You have to distill what it is you want to communicate. And then it becomes strong, a strong, clear message. It has to be constant, it has to be consistent.
Okay. It's a calling show. We're going to open up the phone lines for you to call and ask her questions related to personal branding and how you can leverage it to advance or promote your business. Now, let's talk more generically, there's a word like that. Okay. Are there, regardless of the industry or the profession somebody is involved in or his business is involved in, are there certain basic, fundamental personal branding principles or philosophies that everybody should subscribe to? What are they?
Okay. There are quite a few, but like the ones I just mentioned, you have to know yourself. That's the foundation.
You have to know yourself.
Absolutely. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you're bringing. You have to know what you're offering, and then your message has to be clear, has to be specific. Your message has to be consistent. Okay, you can't be saying this today and saying this tomorrow, because the consistency reinforces the message, and that's the difference between a weak brand or strong brand. And it has to be constant, So those are some of the things in a nutshell that will help you.
Okay. I want to be a bit more specific. So you find things like communication skill, for instance. Your dressing. How you relate to people. Are these elements of personal branding? How important are they?
Absolutely. Somebody said how you live your life is how you live your brand. Okay, so everything matters when it comes to personal branding. Your communication. You can brand through your image. There are people who are associated with a particular image or something. If I turn up now, for example, wearing glittery gloves, fingerless gloves and a black jacket, military jacket and all of that, black patent shoes, tight trousers, you're going to say Michael Jackson. Because there was a consistency to his image, to the point where even if other people copy that, they're still going to trace it back to him. Steve Jobs always wore like a uniform.
Exactly.
And that also communicated something.
Okay.
So you can be deliberate about your branding or you can be accidental about it. Somebody said, the founder of Amazon, he said, your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room.
Jeff Bezos, yeah. That's what he
Yes,
said, yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a combination of your image and your reputation, you know, feedback. You try and communicate something, that's your brand message. Everything you're putting out is your brand identity, be it your communication, the way you answer your emails, the way you pick up your phone, the way you dress, where you go, who you're seen with, everything.
Okay.
And then your brand image is what people are actually interpreting from all that you're putting out. So if you find that, for example, your message, your image is not reflecting the message you're trying to put out, then you have to go back and curate. Understand, am I communicating the message I want to? You know, so image also plays a role, definitely.
Okay, the image of the individual. Okay, just before we open up the lines, you know, somebody said I should ask this question. You know, accents. Many people have accent. My people, Benin people, I don't want to speak the way they speak, you know. So, when it comes to communication and personal branding, if somebody has a very heavy accent, does that diminish the person's brand?
It depends on what your brand is. If you're trying to come across as very cosmopolitan, you know, and you have and you have a very strong accent, then that might bring a little erosion.
Okay.
You know, it might take something away. You know, but for example, if you're a comedian, and you know, there's some actors who, you know, way back then, we never knew that they could speak very good English. You know, because even when they were caught outside of the studio and interviewed and all of that, sometimes they'll slip into character and just speak in that particular, but that was their brand. You know what I mean? You know, so it really depends on what it is you're trying to communicate. Okay. Having said that, I'm a little kind on accents, maybe because I speak several languages.
Okay. I hear you speak 6 languages, right? Okay.
You know, so I mean, French people speak English with an accent. Italians speak English with an accent. Arabs speak English with an accent, for example. You know, but I don't think anyone should miss an opportunity to improve on himself.
Okay.
Okay, but I don't think that should make you feel.
But I also, correct me if I'm wrong, I also think that part of what, you know, attract people to you, might attract people to you is your mastery of your subject matter. So if you are very, very good in what you're saying, so the accent might not matter so much. You know, the reason why I'm saying this is, you know, I watched a short video clip of the launch of the Samsung S6. You know, and the guy who launched it is a Korean. And he didn't speak English. So if I spoke English with a very heavy accent, you know, so after welcoming the people, he now said, look, you know, that they should pardon his English because his first language is engineering. You understand? You know, for me, it was fantastic. So people now focus on the engineering of what he was saying. So I think it's also important that, you know, you master
communication. It's important. Communication is more than your accent.
Exactly.
It's being able to pass your message across so people have an understanding of exactly what you're trying to say.
Okay.
You know, so as long as you're able to communicate clearly, you know, then I think you'll be forgiven.
All right. So we're opening up the lines to call to ask the founder and CEO of Artelier Lifestyle Consultants, Mrs. Ngozi Princewill Utchay. We're going to ask you what that company does shortly, okay? Question, the lines to call are 012771923. That's 2771923, 2772923, and 6300923. You're welcome to the show. Yes, you're on air. You're welcome to the show.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning. I've been listening to the program. Actually, I'm in the medical industry. I'm a medical doctor, but I've been thinking of how to get something like a clinic, a small clinic somewhere.
You don't have a question on personal branding, do you?
Yeah, my question is that how do you apply the personal branding to clinical
practice
business,
okay.
You know, medical business like the doctor's office?
All right, thank you. Hold on a second. Yeah, welcome to the show. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm Aya from Lagos. I reckon you're talking about personal branding. Do you plan to do a show on product branding and marketing for entrepreneurs?
Among the series, yes. We have something along that line. Yeah, okay. You're welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to find out how she learned to speak
languages.
Okay. All right. So the first question about somebody in the medical clinical line, how can he leverage personal branding?
Okay, for his enterprise.
How can you be able to, learn 6 languages?
Okay. Okay, well, professional service. What is it that is unique about his offerings? Is it excellence? Is it integrity? Professionalism? What is it? What is it that's unique about what he's doing? That's what he's got to communicate. And he's got to communicate it through his person, through his approach, through his company strategies, and so on and so forth.
So your personal brand has to be consistent with your corporate brand. That's basically what you're saying.
Well, in his case, professional services, he's like the face of the organization, as it were.
Okay,
so he has to embody whatever it is that his company is promising to deliver.
Okay. So the language skill. The language skill.
Okay, how did I start learning?
Which are these 6 languages you can speak?
A little English, a little French, a little Italian, very little German, a little Yoruba, a little Igbo.
Okay, all right. Okay, so tell us about your company. What you do, because actually the last guest, as I said, kept emphasizing personal branding.
Yes.
Personal branding. That's where he learned it.
Yes.
So what is it? So what do you do, and how does this tie into? Maybe let's take this caller. Yeah,
Okay.
welcome to the show.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Am I on to Inspiration FM?
Fidelity SME Forum, yes.
Yes, good morning. My name is Olumide. I would like to ask Mrs. Utchay 2 questions quickly, please. Okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. My very first question, I'm involved in a small and medium enterprise, more on the tech side business currently, and we're having a challenge with really creating a niche for ourselves. It's highly congested, and I don't know, the competitiveness is so high. And then again, for a startup, we're still bootstrapping and limited on funds. What are the rather low-budget strategies we can use to distinguishing ourselves and making our business much more known out there?
Okay, what's the second question?
My second question is a personal one about my personal brand. I do I enjoy talking with people and sharing ideas and communicating. But then I have an imperfect dentition. So it tends to affect my poise and confidence when I'm talking at times. So I want to know how
to overcome that. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Yes, can you just quickly respond
Yes,
to this?
of course. Okay, we'll take the first one. You're a startup. There are ways that you can, well, of course, like I've been saying, you've got to understand what you want to communicate first. And then how do you do it? We're in the age of social media. So there's so much that you can do. That is a huge platform that you can leverage off to communicate what you do to as many people as possible. You're in tech, so you should know. So you get on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, all of those platforms, there's so many of them, but you've got to be careful to ensure a consistent message, so that whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or wherever, there's a consistent message that you're passing across, and you're building on it, you're reinforcing it, and everything you do is building on that message. But of course, you have to start with the message, so you have to start from a place of knowing what is it exactly I want to communicate, which is going back to the audit, the foundation of branding.
Okay. Now, his second question, if somebody, I want to make it a bit generic. So if you have an individual who has some kind of, I don't want to call it disability, some kind of facial or body, I don't know how to describe it. He's talking about dentition. It could be somebody's eyes, it could be your nose, it could be, so
Absolutely.
so how do you, and if you're somebody who has to always make presentations and engage other people, and this seems to be coming in the way, how does the person overcome that?
Okay, well, we're talking a little bit about confidence coaching here.
Okay.
And what I say is, if you can change it, if you can do something about it, do so. But if you can't, you may have to learn to embrace it and get beyond it. Sometimes these things are even more obvious to you than the people around you.
Exactly.
You are the one who's more conscious of it. I like to say what makes you different makes you unique. There are a lot of people who have actually made a living out of what other people may have considered a disadvantage. Iman, the model, she has a very long neck. I can imagine that if she had grown up in Nigeria, I can just imagine the nicknames that she would have been given right from primary school.
Yeah.
You know, but now she's a supermodel. You know, she's admired for her graceful neck. You understand what I'm saying? Absolutely, yes. You know, you should take a
photo.
That's
a brand. It's a personal brand now.
You should find a photograph of her. It's part of what makes her different from others. You know, Alec Weck, the Sudanese model, is very dark-skinned, very skinny. You know, I've had discussions with people who said, look, she's ugly. Let's just call her ugly. And I say to them, well, she's ugly, but she's making money off what you call her ugliness.
Absolutely.
You know, because she's a celebrated model. Other people don't find her ugly, but she's confident enough to go out there and work what she has, what she's been given.
That scar, what was it? What's his name?
Seal.
Seal, yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, when you hear him,
his voice.
Yes, exactly.
Whoever says, oh, Seal, I like his voice, but I don't like his face. His face becomes irrelevant because his voice has superseded everything.
Wow. You could have said it better. Let's take this final. Oh, okay, we lost that caller. Yes. So finally, in about a minute or so, okay, I think the person is back on. Yeah, welcome to the show. Hello? Hello? Okay. You're welcome to the show very quickly.
Hello?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it SME?
Fidelity SME Forum.
Okay. Please, I want to know about
Hello, you're welcome to the show. Oh, we're having problem with this line. Okay. So finally, yes, briefly, in about 30 seconds, what does your company do?
Okay, we're an etiquette and image consultancy. Yeah, so everything to do with image. I would like to say that we're on a mission to help you project, to polish, project, and optimize your corporate or personal image. You know, so it's all about your image.
Okay.
How to polish it, how to project it, and how to optimize it.
Okay.
Make the most of it. You know, so personal branding is part of that.
Do you work with politicians as well? You okay?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. Our guest has been Mrs. Ngozi Princewill Utchay. She is the CEO of Artelier Lifestyle Consultants. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We're going to continue this series. This brand focus series continues next week with Mr. Emeka Okeke. He's the CEO of Brand Fuse. That dentition. No, I can't pronounce that. He'll be sharing insights on effective branding and value creation, the cornerstone of every successful business. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, sir.